This is a video about different types of running shoes and how they might affect biomechanics and therefore different types of running injuries. It's really a research update because the research on this sort of thing changes all the time. And if I'd have done this video 10 years ago, it will probably have very different information in it to what I'll be telling you today. And likewise, in another 10 years, it will probably change again. My name's Steph. I'm one of the physios at Sports Physio Hub, which is a new clinic that we've opened in Lampeter. And I hope this video is helpful because I know it's difficult to choose running shoes. It's quite a minefield. There's a lot of marketing involved. And also these days it's very difficult to go and try lots of trainers on, particularly since COVID. A lot of people are buying stuff online now. So yeah, I wanted to run through what types there are now and what this might mean if you're coming back from an injury or if you have an injury that keeps happening again and again. So let's do a quick recap on the different types of running shoe that are quite common these days. On this picture you've got the top left, which is a traditional running shoe, and then you've got your top right one, which is more of a minimalist shoe, your bottom left, which is a maximalist shoe, and bottom right, which is a zero drop shoe. And when they talk about zero drop, even though it's got reasonably thick sole all the way along, they're talking about the difference in height between the heel area of the sole and the toe area of the sole. So with a traditional running shoe, you would have a thicker heel than you do toe, and the difference in height there is known as the drop. So you might have a 10mm drop or a 12mm drop, which means that your heel is generally higher up than your toe. Or all the way down to kind of zero drop where there's 0mm difference. And this is quite relevant if you've had an Achilles injury or an ankle injury or indeed a knee injury, or if this is something that is a recurring problem for you, because the thicker the heel compared to the toe or the bigger the drop, actually it's been shown to reduce the load on your Achilles and ankle. And the other way round, if you've got zero drop or even kind of as low as 4mm, that does require more work on your Achilles and your calf. And therefore, if you're coming back from an Achilles injury, it makes sense to have something with a thicker heel. The opposite is true for your knee. So when you have a thicker heel, then you do put more forces through your knee. So if you're coming back from a knee injury or you're recurrently getting knee problems, then you might want to consider a slightly lower drop. Now, the thing to bear in mind here is whatever drop you decide to go for, if it's not what you're used to, then you do need to take up to 6 months to really gradually train yourself into it, because obviously if you suddenly change your biomechanics, that can lead then to other problems. So for instance, you might want to go into a lower drop shoe for your knee, but actually then you want to do it gradually so you don't end up with calf or Achilles problems there. With regards to the minimalist shoe, this is where you've got quite a thin sole, and the nice thing about that is that you have a better sensation through your foot, and you can feel the road more. However, there has been shown to be some increased load and increased risk of metatarsal stress fracture. So that's like a stress fracture in the midfoot, in the long bones that are in the middle of your foot. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Usually minimalist shoes obviously have no drop, so they are something to bear in mind that you have to build into gradually. The other positive from a minimalist shoe point of view is that it tends to show that you have better running economy with that, and by that it means that your running form can be better, and therefore overall your technique can be better, and you can improve your performance that way. Now again, this is very reliant on strength and conditioning, and training load and training volume, training intensity, lots of things. So it's not a case of you buy a minimalist shoe and off you go and suddenly you're going to run like Kipchoge and win lots of races. Then we've got the maximalist shoe, like the Hoka, which does look a little ridiculous but has a very thick cushioned midsole. So thick cushioned midsoles have been shown to reduce shock going through and reduce impact forces. So if you've had problems because of impact, or perhaps if you've got a little bit of arthritis going on in your joints and you want some shock absorption, then that's a good option. I think a really important factor to bear in mind is that 60 to 80% of, for example, Achilles tendon injuries, which is an overuse injury, come from training errors and actually increasing volume and increasing distance or intensity too quickly, and that's probably much more relevant than the type of shoe you're wearing. In fact, there's another research study that was done this year that shows that actually in 6 months, if you adjust to something properly, as in any sort of shoe, most people will be able to adapt to a different sort of shoe they were wearing compared to what they were wearing before. So actually, in some ways, if you give yourself enough time and you have the right sort of training, it doesn't matter what shoe you go for, because you will be able to train yourself into it. So if you really like the blue ones, get the blue ones, but make sure that you've got some guidance on how to train, how to strengthen, and it's really about using people like ourselves to help you with what muscle groups you need to work on. Look at your strength around your core, your glutes, your biomechanics. Are your calf muscles weak? Are your calf muscles too tight? Are your hamstrings tight? What's your stability like? Sometimes if people are pronating in their feet, it's not just because they need a certain sort of shoe. Sometimes it's because they don't have enough range of movement in the ankle. Sometimes there's not enough stability, not enough calf strength. So there's lots of things that can contribute to your biomechanics other than just what shoe you're wearing. And the final thing is that you have to bear in mind that shoe manufacturers are trying to sell you shoes, and there's an awful lot of marketing, and there's a lot of stuff that they will claim that isn't necessarily backed by the research. So if you're not sure, you should come and ask, or if you feel like there's an injury that you want some advice on, then please do get in touch with us. You can have a look at our page for more information.